My beloved child, before you decide what this message means, allow yourself one quiet moment to notice how certain moments arrive without noise, yet somehow change the direction of an entire story. There are conversations taking place beyond your sight, not because anyone is trying to keep you in the dark, but because some truths reveal themselves only when every heart involved is finally ready to receive them. This is one of those moments. Don't skip. Because what began as a simple search has slowly become something no one expected. A question was asked with complete confidence. An answer came back with complete honesty. And the silence that followed carried more meaning than anyone in that room could explain. Far away from where you stand today, someone who deeply cares about your soulmate believed they were protecting the future. Your soulmate's sister looked at scattered pieces of information, tiny moments that never seemed to fit together, and wondered whether there was something important she had overlooked. She was not searching for perfection. She was searching for clarity. She wanted reassurance that the feelings growing inside your soulmate's heart were rooted in something genuine, something lasting, something worthy of trust. Quietly, without making a scene, she reached out to someone whose job was simply to observe, to connect details, and to tell the truth without emotion. At first, nothing appeared unusual. Small details surfaced one after another, ordinary enough to dismiss. Yet the deeper the search continued, the more unexpected the picture became. The investigator wasn't uncovering secrets designed to create drama. Instead, they kept discovering quiet patterns. Acts of kindness no audience applauded, moments of patience no one celebrated, choices made when no reward was waiting on the other side. Strange, isn't it? The qualities that often matter the most are usually the ones few people ever notice. Stay till the end, because this is where the story gently begins to shift. When the final report was placed on the table, no dramatic speech was given. There was no shocking announcement meant to overwhelm anyone. The investigator simply looked up and explained something remarkably simple. Sometimes a person's greatest strength cannot be measured by achievements, appearances, or opinions. Sometimes it is revealed by the consistency of their character, by the quiet way they leave peace wherever they go, even when no one is watching. Those words settled into the room with unexpected weight. Your soulmate's sister had prepared herself to hear almost anything. She expected surprises. She expected uncertainty. What she did not expect was the feeling that slowly rose inside her as each sentence unfolded. Her hands became still. Her breathing slowed. Not because she had heard something frightening, but because she realized she had misunderstood someone from the very beginning. The image she had created in her own mind quietly dissolved, replaced by something far more meaningful than she imagined possible. There are moments when people discover that first impressions were incomplete. There are moments when assumptions gently fall away, making room for understanding. This became one of those moments. The investigator explained that your presence seemed to bring calm where confusion once existed, encouragement where doubt had lingered, and sincerity that could not easily be imitated. None of those qualities demanded attention. Yet together, they created a picture impossible to ignore. Something important is waiting for you, because while your soulmate knew only fragments of this conversation, they could sense that something had changed. The atmosphere around them felt different. Questions became softer. Expressions became warmer. Small gestures replaced hesitation. No one announced why. No one needed to. Sometimes hearts recognize change before words ever attempt to describe it. You may have wondered why certain connections seem delayed, why understanding sometimes arrives after long periods of silence, or why people occasionally need time before they truly see another person. The answer is rarely found in a single conversation. It grows through observation, patience, and quiet realization. That is exactly what unfolded here. Piece by piece, someone who believed they were investigating another person unexpectedly found themselves examining their own assumptions instead. Yet one detail remained unspoken. The investigator paused before leaving and shared one final observation, something so unexpected that it caused everyone in the room to exchange silent glances. It wasn't about your past. It wasn't about your future. It was about a single quality within you that could not be explained by facts alone, and hearing it changed the direction of every conversation that followed. That one sentence has not yet reached your soulmate's ears completely. They know something meaningful was discovered, but they still don't know the exact words that caused their sister to quietly lower her eyes, take a deep breath, and whisper, "I never saw them that way before." And when those missing words are finally spoken aloud, another chapter of this story will begin in a way no one in that room is expecting. A quiet realization often arrives long before anyone finds the courage to speak it aloud. That was exactly what happened after the investigator closed the folder and prepared to leave. The room remained unusually still. No one rushed to ask another question because everyone sensed that the most meaningful answer had already been given. Yet your soulmate's sister could not shake one thought from her mind. She replayed every word, every pause, every expression, searching for something she might have misunderstood. Instead of finding doubt, she found an unexpected sense of peace. Stay till the end, because what happened next revealed that this story was never about suspicion, it was about recognition. The investigator finally broke the silence with a gentle smile and said, "There is one detail I almost didn't include, because it cannot be measured on paper." Those words immediately caught everyone's attention. Reports can describe actions. Records can explain events. But some qualities only become visible when countless small moments are viewed together. The investigator explained that throughout the search, one pattern kept appearing again and again. Wherever your name quietly entered a conversation, people described someone who carried kindness without needing applause, someone who remained genuine even when no one expected anything in return. It wasn't perfection they discovered. It was consistency. And sometimes, consistency speaks louder than anything else. Your soulmate's sister slowly lowered the report onto the table. She had expected facts. Instead, she was facing something much deeper. Every assumption she had carefully built over time began dissolving, not because someone argued with her, but because the evidence quietly told a different story. She remembered little moments she had ignored before, things your soulmate had casually mentioned, small changes in their smile, the calmness that appeared whenever your name surfaced naturally. Suddenly those moments connected like pieces of a puzzle that had been waiting for the right light. The investigator continued, almost thoughtfully. "I have handled many requests," they said, "and most searches end with answers that satisfy curiosity. This one did something different. It reminded me that the strongest character is often the least advertised." Those words settled deeply inside the room. No dramatic music. No overwhelming reaction. Just silence filled with understanding. Don't skip, because sometimes silence carries more truth than 100 conversations. At that exact moment, your soulmate happened to notice something unusual. Their sister, who had always seemed so certain about everything, appeared unusually reflective. There was no tension in her face anymore. Instead, there was humility. She looked at your soulmate for several seconds without saying a word, as though she had finally understood something that should have been obvious from the beginning. Your soulmate smiled, slightly confused, unaware that an entire perspective had quietly changed behind the scenes. Have you ever wondered why certain people begin to treat you differently without explaining why? Often it isn't because you changed overnight. It's because they finally noticed what had always been there. Recognition has its own timing. It arrives softly, almost unnoticed, and then suddenly everything feels different. That was exactly what unfolded in this moment. No one announced a decision. Yet the atmosphere itself had transformed. As evening approached, your soulmate's sister found herself reading the report once more. This time she wasn't looking for flaws. She was looking for reassurance that what she had felt earlier was real. Every page brought her back to the same conclusion. The investigator had uncovered something surprisingly rare, not a hidden secret, but a quiet authenticity that couldn't be copied or manufactured. The more she reflected, the more she realized why your soulmate had never been able to fully explain what they felt. Some connections resist simple explanations because they are understood first by the heart and only later by the mind. Something important is waiting for you, because before leaving, the investigator shared one final observation they had intentionally saved until the very end. They leaned forward and said, "There is still one person who hasn't realized the full impact of all this." Everyone assumed they were referring to your soulmate. But the investigator gently shook their head. "No," they whispered. "The person who still doesn't know how deeply they have already influenced this story, is the very person we were asked to learn about." Those unexpected words lingered in the air long after the investigator had walked away. Your soulmate's sister remained standing beside the window, watching the evening light fade, knowing that one conversation still needed to happen. But she also knew she could not rush it. Because when she finally tells your soulmate the one sentence that changed everything, their response may reveal an even greater truth, one that no report, no investigation, and no amount of preparation could have predicted. The following morning unfolded with an unusual stillness, as though the world itself was allowing every unanswered thought to settle before the next chapter began. Nothing appeared different on the surface, yet beneath the ordinary rhythm of the day, something had quietly shifted. Your soulmate's sister carried the investigator's final words with her everywhere she went. They echoed gently in her mind, not as a mystery that demanded solving, but as a truth asking to be understood more deeply. Stay till the end, because the next discovery did not come from another report. It came from a conversation no one expected to have. For hours, she debated whether she should speak to your soulmate immediately or wait a little longer. There are moments when timing matters more than the message itself. She understood that rushing the truth could cause it to lose the very meaning that had made it so powerful. So instead of beginning with questions, she simply watched. She noticed the way your soulmate's expression softened whenever your name naturally entered a conversation. She noticed the quiet confidence that appeared without effort. Most importantly, she noticed that these moments were never forced. They arrived naturally, like sunlight finding its way through a window. Finally, she broke the silence. "There is something I need to tell you." Your soulmate looked up, expecting an ordinary conversation. But the calm seriousness in her voice immediately signaled that this was different. "I asked someone to learn more," she admitted gently. "Not because I wanted to interfere, but because I wanted to understand." For a brief moment, your soulmate remained silent. There was no disappointment, no frustration, only curiosity. They sensed there was more to the story than those simple words. Then came the sentence that changed the atmosphere. "I thought I was protecting you," she whispered. "But I think, you were seeing something long before I ever could." Those words lingered between them like a quiet sunrise. There was no dramatic reaction. Instead, your soulmate smiled with remarkable calmness. It was the smile of someone who had been carrying an unspoken certainty for a long time without needing anyone else to confirm it. Don't skip, because what happened next surprised even the sister herself. Your soulmate didn't ask, "What did the investigator find?" Instead, they asked, "Did they finally understand?" That single question stopped her completely. Not because it was unexpected, but because it revealed something she had completely overlooked. Your soulmate had never been concerned about proving anything. Deep inside, they had simply hoped that one day they would be understood without having to defend what they already felt. In that moment, the investigator's report became something much greater than pages filled with observations. It became a bridge between doubt and trust. As the conversation continued, the sister slowly shared pieces of what she had learned. She spoke about quiet integrity, gentle consistency, unseen kindness, and the remarkable way people described your presence without even realizing they were describing the same person. Every sentence carried the same message from a different angle. "You leave people feeling lighter," she said softly. That was the one thing every story had in common. Your soulmate lowered their eyes for a moment, not out of surprise, but because those words reflected what they had quietly believed all along. There are qualities that cannot be displayed like achievements. They reveal themselves only through time. They appear in countless small moments that seem ordinary until someone finally steps back and notices the entire picture. That was the picture now becoming impossible to ignore. Something important is waiting for you, because as the conversation drew to a close, your soulmate's sister remembered one page she had intentionally left inside the folder. She reached for it slowly. "I almost forgot this." It wasn't another summary. It wasn't another observation. It was a handwritten note from the investigator, something never meant to be part of the official report. The note contained only one short paragraph. After reading it once, your soulmate quietly closed their eyes. After reading it a second time, their sister realized why the investigator had chosen to write it by hand instead of typing it. Neither of them spoke for several long moments. Because those few handwritten lines revealed one deeply personal truth about you that no search had been asked to uncover, yet somehow became the most unforgettable discovery of all. There are moments when a single handwritten page carries more weight than an entire folder of carefully organized facts. That page rested quietly between your soulmate's fingers, untouched for a few seconds longer than expected. It wasn't because the words were difficult to read. It was because they carried a feeling that neither logic nor investigation could fully explain. Stay till the end, because what was written there was never intended to impress anyone. It was simply an honest observation from someone who had entered the story as a stranger and quietly left with a completely different understanding. The note began with a simple sentence. "Some people are remembered because they ask to be noticed." Others are remembered because they make people feel understood. Nothing about those words sounded extraordinary at first. Yet as your soulmate read them again, something inside quietly settled. The investigator had not written about success, appearance, or achievements. They had written about influence, the kind that cannot be measured, only experienced. It explained why so many unrelated conversations had somehow reached the same conclusion without anyone planning them to. Your soulmate's sister looked across the room and asked softly, "Did you already know this?" Your soulmate smiled in that calm, thoughtful way that often appears when the heart recognizes something before the mind does. "I hoped it was true," they answered. But hoping and knowing are two different things. The room became peaceful again. Not empty. Peaceful. Because certainty has a gentle way of arriving. It doesn't force itself into a conversation. It quietly replaces uncertainty until no argument is needed anymore. The investigator's note continued. I was hired to verify information. Instead, I witnessed something much rarer. Every meaningful description of this person came from people who expected nothing in return. Their kindness was mentioned without prompting. Their patience appeared in stories no one thought were important. Their character revealed itself when no audience existed. Your soulmate's sister slowly folded the page. For the first time since this journey had begun, she realized she was no longer trying to protect the future from uncertainty. She was learning how unnecessary some of her fears had been. The answers she had searched for had not created new questions. They had quietly dissolved the old ones. Don't skip, because another realization was beginning to unfold at exactly the same time. Later that afternoon, your soulmate found themselves remembering small moments they had almost forgotten. A conversation that had lasted only a few minutes. A quiet act of encouragement. A thoughtful response during an ordinary day. None of those memories had seemed remarkable on their own. Yet now they connected into something beautiful. They weren't isolated moments anymore. They were evidence of a pattern that had been growing patiently all along. Sometimes we spend so much time waiting for one dramatic sign that we overlook the countless gentle ones already surrounding us. Those gentle signs rarely demand attention. They simply remain faithful until someone is finally ready to see them. As evening arrived, your soulmate's sister placed the investigator's folder back into its envelope. She believed the story was finally complete. Then her phone rang. It was the investigator. "I apologize," they said politely. "While organizing my notes today, I discovered something I unintentionally left out." Her heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from curiosity. "It isn't another fact," the investigator continued. "It's an observation I couldn't fully understand until after I left." "What observation?" she asked quietly. There was a brief pause before the answer came. The people who spoke most highly about this person didn't even realize they were describing the same individual. Silence filled the room again. Neighbors. Former colleagues. Old acquaintances. Someone from years ago. Someone met only briefly. Different places. Different seasons. Different stories. Yet every description pointed toward the same quiet qualities with remarkable consistency. Your soulmate's sister slowly looked toward the window, realizing this could no longer be dismissed as coincidence. "Something important is waiting for you," because before ending the call, the investigator added one final sentence. I still believe there is one piece of this story missing. What piece? She whispered. The reason your soulmate was drawn toward this person long before anyone else recognized what was already there. After the call ended, she remained standing in complete silence. She had finally learned who you were through the eyes of others. Now only one mystery remained. How did your soulmate recognize that truth, before anyone else ever could? And that answer was waiting in a memory they had never shared with anyone. Some answers are not hidden in documents, conversations, or careful investigations. They are quietly waiting inside a memory that has never been spoken aloud. That was the realization your soulmate's sister carried with her as the evening faded into night. Every question she had started with had found an answer, yet one remained untouched. It wasn't about who you were anymore. It was about how your soulmate had recognized something so meaningful long before anyone else could see it. Stay till the end, because this memory would reveal the beginning of a story that had been unfolding far longer than anyone realized. Your soulmate sat quietly by the window, watching the last light disappear beyond the horizon. There was no urgency in their expression, only reflection. After several peaceful moments, they spoke without being asked. I think I know what the investigator couldn't explain. Their sister looked at them with quiet curiosity. What do you mean? Your soulmate smiled gently. I never had one single reason. Those words seemed almost too simple. But they carried extraordinary depth. It wasn't one conversation. It wasn't one moment. It wasn't one act of kindness. It was the feeling that every time our paths somehow crossed, I left with a little more peace than I had before. The room fell silent again. No one could argue with a feeling that had quietly repeated itself over time. The investigator had searched through records. Your soulmate had simply lived the experience. That was the difference. Don't skip, because something even more meaningful was about to surface. Your soulmate closed their eyes for a brief moment, allowing an old memory to return. It was a day that had once seemed completely ordinary. Nothing remarkable had happened. No dramatic event had unfolded. Yet somehow that ordinary day had remained unforgettable. I remember noticing something small, they said softly. You spoke with someone who couldn't offer you anything in return. There was no audience. There was nothing to gain. But you treated them with the exact same kindness you would have shown anyone else. I don't think you even realized anyone was watching. Their sister listened carefully. She suddenly understood why the investigator had struggled to explain your character through facts alone. Character is rarely revealed when people expect to be seen. It reveals itself in ordinary moments that almost everyone else forgets. Something important is waiting for you, because the memory didn't end there. Your soulmate continued. That day I asked myself one quiet question. What kind of person remains the same whether anyone notices or not? I kept searching for a different answer. But every new experience gave me the same one. Their sister slowly lowered her eyes. The investigation had confirmed what your soulmate's heart had already discovered months before. Not through assumptions. Not through imagination. But through patient observation. For the first time, she understood why every attempt to discourage those feelings had quietly failed. They weren't built on excitement alone. They were built on trust that had grown one ordinary moment at a time. Late that night, unable to sleep, she opened the investigator's folder one final time. This time she wasn't searching for evidence. She was simply grateful she had asked the questions. Because the search she believed would expose uncertainty had instead uncovered something deeply reassuring. As she prepared to close the folder forever, a small folded card slipped from the back cover and landed gently on the floor. She frowned. She was certain it hadn't been there before. It wasn't part of the official report. There was no company logo. No signature. Only a single handwritten sentence. She unfolded it carefully. After reading those few words, she covered her mouth in quiet amazement. Not because the message revealed another secret about you, but because it revealed something about your soulmate that even they had never fully understood. The next morning, she looked at your soulmate with completely different eyes, realizing that the greatest discovery of the entire investigation was never about the person being searched. It was about the heart that had recognized something beautiful long before anyone else believed it was possible. And the words written on that small card were about to explain exactly why.